Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be on this planet of ours. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you might be. We appreciate you being with us. Let's start off this evening with our nation's national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still
Let them know it, folks. Thank you, the Army, United States Army Quartet. Thank you so much for the rendition of the national anthem. Thank you to the Barbershop Quartet Convention from 2015 that allows us to show the national anthem as well. God bless you, gentlemen. God bless all of our men and women, servicemen around the world, our allies, men and women. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you all for protecting our world and our nations. Thank you, God bless, and we hope you can return home safely to your families after your tour of duty is over. God bless you all. Thank you for your service. Folks, we have a lot of things that we want to talk about tonight. We told you Monday and yesterday that we'd be back on the air talking about the new Madrid fault today. We're going to be doing that. I earlier tried to get on the main channel, and I thought I was going to be able to do that, and YouTube still has us blocked. They say we screwed up. We talked about politics in the election over a week ago, and they still will not relinquish our channel to us, and I apologize. I had originally put out word that I'd be back. It looked like we were back on it, and YouTube still will not let us use our main channel as of yet, and that is one more strike against YouTube. Folks, if you want to go ahead and write YouTube, or if you can try to find a way to communicate with YouTube, and you can tell them how disappointed you are in the way they're treating not just me, but every YouTube creator, because it's not just me, it's everybody. Unless you put out pornographic information, they allow that. They do allow it. I've seen it. They allow all sorts of other nonsense, but when it comes out to putting out real news, real earthquake information, and everything else that's going on in the world, so people are aware of it, they block us. They strike us out. They tell us it violates their policies. Unless we stand up for our rights, then we are nothing. And I'm standing up for my rights. I put this broadcast channel together, this backup channel, and one other for our Sunday school classes, and I'm going to use them to the best of my ability. Whenever I'm able to go back to the main channel, I will do a test prior to doing it, and it'll be a test earlier in the day than what I tried tonight. I worked all day on this to get back on the main channel today, and they still won't let me broadcast on my own channel. And I did absolutely nothing wrong. So guys, if you want to help me, go after YouTube and nail them at the goalposts. I am going to be doing something legally to go after them myself. There's quite a few other creators that are now on board, and we're going to do something about it. Anyway, I'm going to stop complaining. There's a lot of other fish in the sea and things that we need to talk about, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. Now, first off, I want to literally talk about something that happened about 2 weeks ago. All of you heard it. We talked about it right after it happened, and it was so disgusting to me, I was in tears. If you remember 2 weeks ago, maybe even 3 now, there was a school in Uvalde, Texas that was attacked by a 24-year-old man, and I still refuse to give out his name. I do not want to bring presents to his name. What he did was outright despicable and disgusting. He killed a bunch of children at a school. He injured I think it was 19 other kids. Okay? Now, there is word out today that there were over 400 lawmen at the school, and yet no one of them did a dadgum thing to help those children for over an hour and a half. An hour and a half. And it took an off-duty Border Patrol agent that borrowed a weapon, a high-powered weapon, that went into the school himself without bulletproof vests, without any kind of shield. He went in there, made sure his children were out of there. He went in, found the gunman, and killed him. He stopped the assault. That is the definition of a righteous shoot. To stop the assault. Every time I've taught a self-defense class, the only way you can righteously, legally use your weapon in defense of yourselves or someone else is when someone is using other weapons, whether it be knives, nugs, or whatever it be. Someone else is endangering somebody's life or yours, and in order to stop the assault, you have to take some kind of action. That's the true legal definition of using deadly force. When you believe truly inside yourself, in your mind's eye, that your life or life of another is in imminent danger, then and only then can you use deadly force to stop the assault. 400 lawmen were at that school for an hour and a half. Children were killed, students, teachers, everybody in danger, and nothing was done. And today, there is finally something, someone is going to be held responsible for that event, for those children that were killed and injured. The police chief for the Valdese school district, the police chief is being brought up on charges by the school district, and he's going to be fired. And I believe that soon after that issue is taken care of, he will be brought legally up on charges for not doing something to stop the assault, to prevent children from being killed. He was the one person that was ultimately in charge that could have given the order to start the assault on the school to take out the gunman. Chief Vallarta, I urge you yourself, before you're fired, if it has not already happened, to resign. And then and you have the evidence, Chief. You have the evidence. You and your department and the Texas Rangers and the FBI have the evidence that proves you were negligent in doing your duties, and your officers were negligent in doing their duties, and you are the head of that department. You made the decision for the officers to stand down. And honestly, if I had been there, just like that Border Patrol agent, I would not have stood down. That was ethically and morally wrong. Now, I've made statements online on Facebook and other places about how wrong this was. The gunman should have been taken out. Period. End of discussion. He should have been taken out immediately, if not sooner. And yet it took an off-duty Border Patrol agent escorted by 2 on-duty police officers to go in and do their duty. That's morally and ethically reprehensible. Now, why am I talking about this? If you have ever watched, and I refuse to watch them now, and I'm not going to give them any credit by broadcasting the audio or the video on my channel. If any of you have watched ABC's The View with that dirtbag Goldie, I don't even want to put her name out. The co-host of The View attacked a good Samaritan that stopped the assault on a shooter in the mall, or in a mall, in Indiana the other day. A man with a nug, a civilian with a nug, entered the Indiana mall and stopped the assault. He shot the shooter dead. He stopped the assault dead in his tracks. And he saved everybody's lives. Well, these dirtbags and ABC, if anybody from ABC is watching this broadcast, I urge you to stop The View. Cancel The View. Fire Whoopi Goldberg. I'm sorry I said Goldie before. It's Whoopi Goldberg. Stop her. And stop the others of The View. They're dirtbags. They're assholes. Excuse my French. They went on their program and attacked the Good Samaritan who stopped the active shooter at an Indiana mall the other day. And they got the basic facts of the story wrong, while they tried to dismiss the man's heroic actions as lucky. Whoopi Goldberg and those other dirtbags on The View tried to dismiss what that man did as lucky, and that he should not have been in that mall with a nug. On Tuesday's show yesterday, Sonny Hostin falsely stated that the 20-year-old gun owner, Elijah Dickin, broke the law by carrying his firearm in the Greenwood Park Mall, where he used to stop an active shooter who killed 3 people and wounded 2 others with a rifle. The city of Greenwood officials called Dickin a hero and emphasized that he was lawfully carrying a firearm when he stopped the shooter, when he took out the shooter. But the stupid dirtbag butthole ladies of The View criticized the argument that a good guy with a nug is the only way to stop a bad guy with a nug. They criticized the argument, and I'm going to present the argument to you and everybody within the sound of my voice. They said that a good white guy with a nug can control a bad guy with a nug. Well, guess what? We saw in Uvalde that was not true. Joy Behar said. Joy Behar has been outlandish in the past, along with that dirtbag Whoopi. I'm calling a spade a spade. They're both dirtbags. They were referring to a recent report that nearly 400 law enforcement personnel were at Robb Elementary School during that mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and they failed to stop the shooter. Why? Because that stupid chief of police, Vallardo, refused to let his lawmen do their duty, to do their job. That's what happened. Whoopi Goldberg added the same was true for the mass shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. I call BS. Again, Whoopi Goldberg and this stupid dirtbag Joy Behar, they should be fired and they should be locked up for putting out false information. You think that I get suspended from YouTube for putting out false information? And they are doing it on a daily basis. And yet nothing has happened to them. ABC News, ABC Broadcast Network, you need to fire those 2. Period. Get rid of them. Take them frickin' off the air. Republican conservative co-host Lindsey Granger pushed back on Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar about their narrative mentioning that we saw what was true in Indiana. It was true in Indiana. Behar said it was a lucky moment, and she doesn't know what the hell that she is talking about. There was nothing luck about it. The man that took out the shooter in the Indiana mall knew what he was doing. He was well trained. He was a civilian that had gone to the gun range and practiced. He knew what he was doing. He had a license to carry that firearm concealed. And you know what? I feel like this. If you're a good guy with a nug, you should not object to background checks or licensing. Do it. You know the limitation on military-style nugs that kill thousands of people, or even hundreds. The conservative voice of Miss Hostin criticized Dickon, who was the Good Samaritan, for taking action to stop the mall shooter, bringing up her own experience with firearms training. But in this Good Samaritan thing, listen, this is what Hostin said. She used to work for the government, for DHS. She says, I was trained when I was at the Justice Department in firearms. I was trained in defensive firearm training. It's very hard to hit a moving target. It's hard for people that are trained to hit a moving target. She said it's lucky that that Good Samaritan hit the moving target in that way. That Good Samaritan was trained. He trained to make sure that he could take care of the situation when it happened. Those of us that have been in law enforcement, whether we've been in law enforcement, are currently in law enforcement, or retired, we continue our training. We know what we did. We know how we are trained, and we exercise that option so we can take care of business. It's incredible that this kind of crap happens. Scooter Pie says, Julie Heflin deserves a wrench. I will talk to Julie offline on the telephone at her earliest convenience tomorrow, and we will do that if she wants to have it. Julie, you want it? You got it. Julie was just in here. She's going to get her mod chip. But they're not letting me do it. Oh, that's weird. They're not letting me do it. Just a second, Julie. We're going to see. Okay, we're doing it. Julie, you're now a mod on this channel, and thank you very much for your service and wanting to serve. God bless you for that. Yes, Julie, I wish I would have known that, and I would have given it to you earlier than now. Thank you very much. And thank you, Scooter Pie, for helping us. All right. Anyway, getting back to what happened in Indiana, okay, with this Good Samaritan thing. Hostin talked about what she was doing when she worked for the government. Okay, she went on to falsely state that Dickon was carrying his firearm illegally, and I will tell you why she said that. She said, quote, he had a nug permit, but he wasn't supposed to be in the mall with a nug. So she said, Hostin said he broke the law even though he was a Good Samaritan. That's wrong. He did not break the law. I want to emphasize that the Good Samaritan at the mall in Indiana did not break the law, and I'm going to explain it. Indiana became known as a constitutional carry state in March this year when Governor Eric Holcomb signed a law eliminating the license requirement to carry a nug. Anyone who previously could obtain a permit to carry a nug is legally permitted to do so without a permit in Indiana. The Indianapolis Star reported that the Greenwood Park Mall had a no-nug policy. The newspaper came out and said that the mall had a no-nug policy. But, attorney and firearms instructor Guy Relford, told the paper Indiana's constitutional carry and stand your ground laws protected Dickens' actions because he acted to save the people that were targeted by the shooter. Mr. Dickens, yes, he had a concealed weapons permit, but in that state, you no longer have to have a permit. And Mr. Dickens acted within the scope of the law to stop the shooter, which he did. So this tirade by the girls in The View, the stupid, moronic, imbecilic women of The View that have no idea what they're talking about, criticized Mr. Dickens. And like I said, ABC News, ABC Television, you need to cancel The View. Get Whoopi Goldberg and Miss Behar off the air. They're nothing but troublemakers and liars. They lie at every opportunity they open their mouth. Now, this attorney, Relford, said he compared the mall's policy to a no shoes, no shirt, no service sign, explaining that while a business can ask a customer that violates the policies to leave, no crime is committed unless the customer refuses to do so. So in the case where the customer ignores the business demand, he would be trespassing, which is a crime in Indiana and almost every other state. So that fact that the Greenwood Park Mall had a no-nug policy creates a legal issue whatsoever, creates a no legal issue for Mr. Dickens. There was no nug policy at the mall. But Mr. Dickens did not violate any law. What he did has no effect on his ability to use force to defend himself or to defend other people in the mall. Let me say that again. The fact that the Greenwood Park Mall had a no-nug policy creates no legal issue, none whatsoever, for Mr. Dickens or anyone else that were to defend themselves or someone else from an assault, whether a deadly or a malicious assault on somebody's body that could possibly end in their death. There's no issue at all. Now, I'm telling you, the law of Indiana is different than the law of the mall or of any mall. And I would say it takes precedence when you save a life. Your actions to save someone's life takes precedence. State law takes precedence over any local laws. State law takes precedence over any rules of any business anywhere, period. And the fact that the stupid jerkhead women of The View have again made stupid fools of themselves, and no, they won't apologize. They're so far above everybody else in their wickedness, they have no clue what they're talking about. And ABC, I would love to go on your program. I would love to go on your news program. Not with the ladies of The View, because I would tear them up. I would tear The View apart. And I would have that producer's job until he fired every frickin' one of them, those women. They have no right to continue their falsities, their lies to the American people. End of discussion. I won't defend the police chief in Uvalde. I will not defend the women of the View. I will not defend anyone that goes ahead and says it's okay to kill people just because they have the right to kill. They don't. Any shooter that does that, any active shooter that goes after anyone, deserves the fact to be met with physical force that could possibly end their life. They have no right to use force against anybody. No, not at all. Not frickin' at all. Anyway, that story came from the Blaze Media Network. And you can find them on the Blaze. I wanted to air my gripe because I've just about had it with these so-called goody two-shoes, do-gooders that think that they can say whatever they want and they have no legal basis for it. They have no frickin' idea what they're talking about, and they are as wrong can be today, yesterday, and forever. And they have to be held accountable. They can no longer be allowed to lie to the American people. I have stated on this program unequivocally that none of us should stand for this kind of malarkey. Ever. Never, ever. And what I've said on this program, on whatever channel, is the absolute God's truth. That's the way it is. I won't watch them anymore. I haven't watched them for years, and it ain't gonna happen. These communists, and that's exactly what they are. They're Marxist card-carrying communists. And they've got to stop. We, the citizens of this country, cannot allow these dirtbags to rule our country. And speaking of which, two more issues. Both of them to do with Nancy Pelosi and her Congress. First off, remember Nancy Pelosi and the United States Congress? They all the time get information. They get information about almost everything. Financial information from stocks and traders. Nancy Pelosi's husband just made a killing because of bedroom pillow talk with Nancy Pelosi. Insider trading information was shared with her husband, and yesterday Monday I think it was, he turned it into gold. If I'm not mistaken, other congressmen and women have been disciplined for insider stock trading. It's against the law. So Nancy Pelosi and her husband, and as long as she's married to him, she's equally as guilty as her husband because she gave him the information. Insider stock trading. It's against the law. Then Nancy Pelosi and her Congress last week introduced a bill into Congress that would give the President of the United States dictatorial power over every citizen in this country. He would become dictator. Then Monday, Uncle Joe Biden, that probably wears diapers, I don't give a damn. He can't even read a teleprompter. He can't even make a reasonable statement unless he's being told in his ear, and then he screws it up even then. Joseph Biden has already said that he will take presidential action into his own hands. He will issue an executive order giving him dictatorial power to declare martial law, to quarantine and lock down the populace here in this country. For whatever reason, Mr. Biden and all of his henchmen, including Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and all those other Marxist communist ringleaders in Washington, should be in prison. They should be locked up and the key thrown away. They needed to be arrested a long time ago. And it's getting out of hand. They are taking control of this country, dictatorial powers. Now that bill that Congress did pass, Congress passed it. That bill is going to the Senate, where there's another horse show going on, but there's equal number of conservatives and equal number of Democrat communists there, where they might be able to stop this bill from being signed into law. Because if the Senate takes it up and passes it, it will go to Uncle Joey for his signature, and it will become law. Now, Uncle Joey and Ms. Pelosi are now stating that the United States Supreme Court needs to be abolished, and they will take action to do it. Our country was set up by our forefathers with three executive branches: the legislature, the Supreme Court, and the United States presidency. Checks and balances. And yet this Congress wants supreme power to disable the Supreme Court, make them not an issue, so they and their Democrat counterparts in the presidency can stay there forever and be dictators. That has got to come to a frickin' stop. It's got to stop. Everyone within the sound of my voice, and I'm asking all of you to share this information far and wide. It's got to be shared far and wide, ladies and gentlemen. It's got to go viral. Please share it, and share it wide. Your friends, your neighbors, your social media contacts, your family, extended family, and the people you work with need to know this. People have got to be crazy to let this happen. And everybody within the sound of my voice that is a conservative in nature must stand up and say, no, you're not going to do this. No, you're not going to do it. The top three people, Scooter Pye said it, the top three people in our government are liars and cheaters. Okay? Sleeping Volcano says, oh, Manchin will stop it. Manchin can't stop it. Manchin by himself cannot stop it. You and I can. All of us standing together as millions of people can stop these traitors. And that's what they are. They're traitors. Traitors. They're traitors to this country. They should be arrested immediately. They should be brought before tribunals and then dealt with if they're found guilty. And there's already laws on the books to that effect. Okay. That's all I wanted to say about that. I'm livid. I am livid. I made a statement in one of my groups to that same effect. I am livid. I'm hot under the collar. I am so mad. And yes, my Congress people know about it. These people have to be stopped. That's the way it is. Linda Covington says, 2-cent watch for civil circus. Yeah, it is a circus. And they shan't be let loose. They need to be taken down. All right. That's what I wanted to say about that. I'm hot about it. I am so mad. I am so freaking mad. Anyway, I wanted to go into earthquakes. And while I'm going to go into earthquakes, before I go there, in our program description tonight, I put the link to Mark Wage's channel, Wage's World. He did a program last night that I want everybody to go to. After this program's over, if you have not already been to Wage's World and his program last night, I urge you to go there. I put the link in our program description. Why? He talked about 2 more CMEs. He talked about coronal holes on the sun, and he explained it so even a small child could understand it. I told him last night in the chat that his program was probably the best program that he has ever done. He was spot on with his information. Now, what does that have to do with earthquakes and what goes on this earth? As I have explained, when we have an eruption off the sun, what they call a coronal mass ejection, from a coronal hole, a hole on the sun, literally a hole on the sun. Let me put up an image of the sun so you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm very serious. I couldn't be more serious. Everybody needs to understand what's going on. And that's all I'm trying to do, is make sure that everybody understands it. Okay? Now I'm going to enlarge this picture right here so you can see it. All those dark spots are solar holes. They're holes in the sun. Those holes in the sun can erupt CMEs, plasma radiation. Okay, you see those bright objects here? Those are actual eruptions on the sun. And they're Earth. A lot of these are Earth facing. Not all of them, because the ones that are out to the side may have glancing blows on the Earth. They will not be as powerful as those that are currently facing our Earth or any of the other planets. Those coronal holes can launch plasma radiation out into space, traveling hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. Then those CMEs, those coronal mass ejections that have sent plasma radiation out into our Earth, they can disrupt communications on this planet. that radiation can affect you and I as human beings walking around on our earth. You need to be properly protected so your bodies will not be absorbing direct energy from the sun. If possible, you need, when these ejections are hitting our planet, you need to spend as much time as possible in the house, and if not, to have protection around you to keep this radiation from penetrating your body. And our bodies are about 80% water. And as a result, our bodies will allow that radiation into us. And it can cause all sorts of disastrous health effects. And most of you know that. If you don't know it, you need to listen to this, because this radiation can harm you. This plasma radiation also heats up the tectonic plates of the earth. And as I've explained in this past few days and in the past 3.5 years, as that radiation heats up the plates of the earth, all that gunk and grime that hold the plates in place, all that gunk and grime and biological materials is heated up by the radiation. It turns all that gunk and grime into an oily, greasy substance that allows the plates to slip, causing earth movement, earthquakes, which can be disastrous earthquakes. Upwards of an 8.0 or even higher. We've warned about this in the past. Mark Wages did an awesome job explaining this. Now, with that said, there are other things that I want to show you that happen when radiation penetrates the earth. So I'm going to show you this map. This is what they call a tech map. A tech map. I'm going to give you an overview of what that tech map shows. This tech chart shows the North Atlantic. You can see the black areas here. Those are the most extreme, dangerous areas around. This tech chart shows the North Atlantic is growing. The Andaman Islands, which are southeast of India, need to be watched, as well as Indonesia, where Krakatau is erupting. Okay? That's what we see here. Look up at the top left of center. Look at this black area, guys. It's covering the United States of America. Look at the black areas all around the world. This black area covers the northeastern part of the United States and Canada. It's also covering down in the Central and South Pacific, going over into Mexico, Central America, and South America. Look at that great big huge black arm, if you will, that goes from the Atlantic, the central part of the Atlantic Ocean, over Africa, spreads across the Indian Ocean and Europe, and back out into the United States. Yeah, folks, there's a danger here. There's a real danger here. Now, I want to show you something else. TEC, T-E-C, is the total content of electrons, the total number of electrons that are present. The total number of electrons that are present along a path between a radio transmitter and a receiver. Radio waves are affected by the presence of electrons, radiation. The more electrons in the path of the radio wave, the radio signal will be affected. For ground to satellite communication and satellite navigation, the total electron content, the TEC, is a good parameter to monitor for possible space weather impacts. The total electron content is a good parameter to use to monitor for possible space weather impacts. And I'm talking about radiation. Total electron content. There's a reason that I'm bringing this up. There's a very good reason I'm bringing this up. Let me give you some more information here. Anytime that we have solar eruptions, coronal mass ejections, putting out the radiation from the sun that's hitting the earth, it's going to affect communications here on this earth. There's no way that it can't. There's no way that it can't. Let me bring up this other map here. Down at the bottom we have the earth. Okay? You have various points on this earth that represent radio transmitters. And these transmitters are literally all around the earth. Every country, every city, every town, every county around the world, whatever country they're in, has radios, and they are transmitting. Whether it be air traffic control, fire, medical, police, whoever it is, ham radio, these people that have radios that need to speak to deliver important emergency information to the public, to pilots, to other police officers and police departments, fire departments, firemen, paramedics, other medical personnel, NASA, air-to-ground space, space station, satellites. All radio communication is affected by coronal mass ejections, the radiation. That's why I showed you that map. The total electron content. And depending on how concentrated that radiation is, it's going to affect the propagation, the ability for radio signals to get where they need to go. Radio communications can be stopped or inhibited by this radiation. Radio signals originate on the earth and they're bounced into the ionosphere. And those radio signals bounce off the ionosphere and they go back to earth. And that's what you see here. From the transmitter, they go up into the ionosphere and they're bounced back to earth. You can see it on the center, the first bounce. Then it goes back up into the ionosphere and bounces again. And bounces again and again and again until the radio signal gets to where it needs to go. I wanted to make sure that you understand this, because we are talking about solar radiation. We talk about cosmic radiation. We talk about planetary alignments that cause electromagnetic radiation. This radiation can affect communications. It can affect our bodies, causing all sorts of bad, ill health effects. I want to make sure that everybody understands what is going on. That's why I've spent the last little while telling you about it. But like I said, it can affect plate tectonics. It can affect faults all around the world. We've seen faults move. Strike slip, for example. Lately, we've been talking about the New Madrid fault. We've been talking about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake fault. And it's not just those major faults. There are ancillary faults that will also be affected. The more plasma radiation that enters our atmosphere, the worse things are. And it doesn't stop there. What happens when the Cascadia happens? It's going to shake the earth. It's literally going to shake the earth. It's going to be the most powerful earthquake that man has ever seen. Japan had a 9.0, and look what happened there. Alaska in 1964 had a 9.1. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake could be as large as a 10.0 or larger. There have been movies made about the San Andreas having a 10.0, and I urge you guys, and it's probably out on YouTube, and if it isn't, you can probably either rent the movie or find it someplace else. It's called 10.0. About the San Andreas Fault going up and down north to south. And it tears California apart. In this case, we're talking about the San Andreas and the San Andreas triggering other faults, including the San Andreas Fault. And when that happens, there is a very good chance that it could trigger the New Madrid. If the New Madrid goes before that, the whole North American plate will shake. We expect the New Madrid fault to be at least a 7.0 to an 8.0, possibly larger. When that happened before, when the New Madrid fault gave way before, the Richter scale was little known. They estimate that that fault, when it let loose with a earth movement of a 7 to an 8.0 quake. And it lasted about 5 minutes, and it totally destroyed the area around the ground around the New Madrid fault. And we've shown you this. We've talked about this. Now, I'm going to bring up the USGS map. I'm going to bring it over here. I had it on the West Coast. I'm going to bring it over here to the New Madrid Fault, because we had an earthquake on the New Madrid Fault today. This earthquake was in Crothersville, Missouri today. It was a 2.3 magnitude earthquake, and I'm going to show you seismograms in a minute that show you a lot more than a 2.3 magnitude earthquake here in Crothersville. Okay, I'm going to show you that. But Crothersville was not the only location where the New Madrid Fault opened up today. No, we did not have a huge earthquake, but we had a bunch of small ones. This is the New Madrid Fault, ladies and gentlemen. This whole fault area, let me back it up here. This whole fault area stretches from way down here in the Gulf of Mexico, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and that's before it starts heading east. And it does. Even up into Ohio. Okay? It's huge, ladies and gentlemen. It caused, when it left last time, when it let loose last time, it caused the Mississippi River to stop flowing, which backed the Mississippi River up to where it formed a lake. It formed a lake called the Reelfoot Lake, Reelfoote, Reelfoot Lake, to exist as is existing now. There may be people that are their bodies have decomposed in the water and the muck at the bottom of this lake. We don't know how many hundreds of people were killed, either by the shaking of the earth or the backup of the Mississippi River for 7 minutes. Regardless, people were killed. Folks, when it happened last time, there weren't a lot of people living in this area. There were not a lot of people living in this area. And as a result, probably only hundreds of people were killed and injured. And they may have died as a result of their injuries as well, because they didn't have modern medicine as we know it today. Now, this whole area is very populated. Millions of people live up and down this entire fault. The horse and buggy trails that were here 200 plus years ago developed fissures. When that earthquake opened up, the earth opened up as well. Huge fissures opened up and destroyed the horse and buggy trails. So there was no way to travel those trails any longer. Those horse and buggy trails now have been paved over, and most of them are nothing more than 2-lane blacktop. When the new Madrid fault opens up again, those roadways, those 2-lane blacktops, 1 lane going in each direction, will be severed. The fissures are going to open up. Huge holes are going to destroy those roadways. There will be no traveling up and down those roadways any longer. Water and gas mains will be destroyed. Water and gas lines will be opened up and destroyed. There will be fires that occur. And the only way to put out those fires is through water, which will be almost non-existent because the water mains will be broken. The fire departments will not have water except water on their trucks, if those trucks are even able to move at any point. The only water that will be available for firefighting will be through helicopters and planes coming in the area and dumping water on the fires. The only way that medical personnel will be able to reach the people that have been killed or who will be injured is if they're airlifted in, or there happens to be medical people in those areas that walk in to assist the people that have been killed or injured. As I have stated on these broadcasts over the last 3.5 years, I have spoken with emergency managers up and down this entire fault. They have told me the same stories. One such emergency manager, and I won't give out his name, and I won't give out the city where he's at. He was the coroner for the county. He also owned a mortuary in the town where he lived. On the mortuary property, he had 2 semi-trailers, refrigerator trailers, that could be used as temporary morgues to house the dead bodies that will result from this earthquake or subsequent earthquakes. He didn't tell me whether other mortuaries had that capability or not. The town plan there, in his town, to evacuate people from the town was to build a bridge over Reelfoot Lake. That was their plan. They did not have the money to build that bridge, so there will be no evacuating of people from that town. The bridge has not been built. That's how bad things are going to be up and down the entire New Madrid fault. The shaking will be felt probably all the way to the East Coast. The main shaking will be felt around the fault area itself, up and down north and south and east and west. Yes, east and west. Probably over into eastern Texas. New Pleasant, Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas, that area. Oklahoma, all the way up through that corridor. That's where the major shaking's going to be. It's going to probably start in Missouri. The main thrust of the fault is probably going to be in Missouri, New Madrid, Missouri area. And we're going to be talking about that in just a minute. Now, we've had a few earthquakes around the world today. Okay? I'm not going to lie to you. Over in Indonesia, we've had a 5.3 large quake. We've had a 4.9 over in the South Atlantic, the Southern Atlantic, the Central Southern Atlantic Fault. We've had moderate earthquakes over in New Caledonia, in southern Fiji. We've had moderate earthquakes over in Chile and Peru and various other areas in Central America and South America. We've had small earthquakes in Alaska, minor and small earthquakes and tremors, Alaska, and all over the western United States. We've only had a handful of large earthquakes. One of them over in southeastern Philippines, near Point Agatan, Philippines. It was a 5. There's only been 3 5s today. The rest of them has been 4s, 3s, 2s, and a bunch of tremors. Fortunately, yes, we've seen a lot of 6s in the past week, a bunch of them. And I think we're going to see some 7s and even some 8s very soon. I've told you why now. I've explained it. I want to make a point here. We've talked a lot about emergency preparedness. I wanted to do this and talk about it because every one of these disasters, and it's not just the earthquake, it's the fires, it's the floods, We're right in the middle of hurricane season, and we have not even hardly seen anything from hurricanes or tropical storms. Very little. But it's going to happen. We're only in July. The biggest hurricanes hit in August and September, and even up into November. It's going to happen. All these natural disasters are going to have an effect on all of us. Why have I talked about this news at the early part of my program? Because it's not just the natural disasters that are going to cause disruption in your lives. Everything that we've talked about is going to cause major havoc in your life. You need to know about it, because you need to make decisions for you and your family on what you're going to do about it and how you're going to survive these occasions, these events. We've talked about making a plan, and I will bet you that almost nobody, there will be some, but I will bet you that the majority of the people that watch this program have not even written a plan. You don't have an idea how to write plans because you've not been paying attention to what I've counseled you to do. If you go over to our website, which is in the top part of our program description today, go over to our website, go over to the files sharing area. You're going to find all sorts of emergency information on what you can do to save your life and the lives of your family during any kind of emergency. The top one is emergency preparedness planning. You need to have a plan. If you don't, you better write one. I've written hundreds of plans over the last few years. For churches, I've written them for businesses, I've written them for neighborhoods, I've helped cities compile emergency preparedness plans. The second thing, you need to have food storage. You need to have an emergency preparedness supply kit of some kind. We talked about food storage, normal food that you would buy and or survival food. You need to have water as well. And I'm not going to stop talking about it. This is urgent. This is urgent. You need to do it now. There's no better time to do it than now. I hate harping on it. A lot of you folks know me. You know me very well. I've talked about it. I've talked to you personally in many cases. We're talking about the new Madrid fault tonight and what happens. I want you to know what's going on. This seismogram that's in front of you right now, it comes from Martinsburg, West Virginia. We've talked about this a lot in past days and weeks. The New Madrid fault is getting pressure from the Atlantic fault. The Atlantic fault, where the Atlantic Ocean is, guys, the Atlantic fault is putting pressure on the Eastern Continental Divide, the North American Craton. Canada and the United States are moving, as well as some parts of Mexico. Canada, the United States, and Mexico are being pushed to the south-southwest, putting tremendous pressure on the New Madrid fault. This seismogram shows an earthquake that hit earlier today. Here in West Virginia. Now, why am I showing it to you? If you haven't already guessed, with this fault pressure here, okay, this was this afternoon. This was at least a 2.8 to 3.2 magnitude earthquake. It lasted for about 30 seconds. This one hit at 2:47 this afternoon. 2:47 hundredths of seconds this afternoon. You can see it. It's plainly visible. The Atlantic plate pushing on the North American plate caused this earthquake along the continental divide of the United States and West Virginia today. And it's not the only one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to show you stuff that's happened along the East Coast first, so you're very much aware of what is going on. You need to know it. I'm showing you proof of it happening. Beckley, West Virginia. Look at this afternoon. Again, you have a bunch of tremors here, don't you? 7 tremors and this one earthquake. 7 tremors and this one earthquake. This is a 2.9, 3.0 magnitude quake. Okay? Beckley, West Virginia. Let's go over to Virginia. West Virginia is much inland. Let's go over to Virginia. Virginia's also had quakes, so let's talk about it. Okay? Let's go over to Accomack, Virginia. This is this afternoon. Yes, most of this is microquake activity. There are some tremors here as well. However, look at this one here. Accomack, Virginia. This happened today at about 12:46 p.m. this afternoon. Again, this is a 2.7, 2.8 magnitude quake. It's a minor earthquake this afternoon. There were some tremors here, but for the most part, they are experiencing a bunch of microquakes, and it's a continuous amount of microquakes at that. The earth is shaking, being pushed by the Atlantic plate. The earth is shaking, folks. You can't get any more vivid than that. We're showing you the details here. I'm going to show you Hurt, Virginia. Hurt, Virginia. Okay? For the most part, this is nothing but minor earthquakes and tremors, especially this morning here. It shows some microquakes happening at about 6:30 this morning, and they continued for a couple hours through the 8 o'clock hour. So an hour and a half, we had a bunch of microquakes in Hurt, Virginia. Again, the Atlantic plate is pushing on the North American plate. Let's go down to North Carolina, where I live. Now, folks, if you have not been paying attention, you need to pay attention now. I'm telling you, what I'm going to show you in North Carolina here is important. Let's go over to northeastern North Carolina at King, North Carolina. Again, the majority of this seismogram here is nothing more than microquakes. Very, very tiny shaking going on. Except we have some tremors that popped up here, don't we? This is over along the coast of North Carolina, the northeast coast of North Carolina. Very tiny shaking going on. King, North Carolina. There's a lot more here. Okay? Let's go over to Roper, North Carolina this afternoon. Again, the majority of this is just microquakes, but we've had some tremors here and you can see it. The largest tremor was this afternoon on this green line again. Okay, about 3:55 p.m. this afternoon. With this, probably, I'm going to probably call it a 1.8 tremor here. We had some other very minor tremors, probably 1.0. This one in the green is probably a 1.4, 1.5 max. Okay, this is in Roper, North Carolina. Now I'm coming south. I'm coming south. Now I'm going over to Taylorsville, North Carolina. This was this morning. And we felt that here. Taylorsville is about 45 minutes north of me. Look what we have here. Okay, this started about 6:15, 6:30 this morning. I was not even 6:15, 6:30 this morning is when the shaking started. It first started as some very light microquake activity. Then it kicked up to some tremors and even earthquakes. And you can see them on the blue and the black lines here. The rest of this is all tremors here. This was here in North Carolina, just north of me in Taylorsville. Okay? We felt it here where I live in Morganton. Let's go further south and west to a place called Sandy Mush, North Carolina. Now we have several of our listeners that live up in that area and live near that area. Sandy Mush. They had tremors here. Look at these tremors. These are very minor tremors, but they're still showing the earth moving. The Eastern Continental Divide. The Eastern Craton being pushed by the Atlantic Plate. Now, while these are just minor tremors, if you remember, nearly 2 years ago, northwest of me, there was a 5.1 magnitude earthquake. And I went up there last year after I moved here. Within a few weeks of me being here, I drove up there and I interviewed several people. I took pictures of the damage after that quake. Homes were moved off their foundation. 3 homes have been declared uninhabitable because of the damage. The Elks Lodge was almost destroyed. File cabinets were thrown open. Dishes and plates that were in cupboards were thrown to the floor. Drawers were opened. The foundation of the Elks Lodge was nearly destroyed with a 5.1 magnitude earthquake at the top of the North Carolina Eastern Continental Divide. That's where it happened. A 5.1 magnitude earthquake. Now I'm going to show you some more earthquakes here that happened today on the Eastern Continental Divide. You need to know it. A lot of people here, even as we're speaking here, a lot of people in this chat here, on this channel, live in these areas. These earthquakes are going to affect you. Let's go down to Kings Mountain, Blacksburg, South Carolina. This is a volcano. Look at the tremors here. Literally all day long. Tremors. This was the top of this seismogram was midnight last night. Tremors hitting almost all morning, all day long today until 12 noon today. The bottom here is 12 noon. The bottom corner on the right is 12 noon. This morning, at about 12:03, 12:04 this morning, they had a 2.4 magnitude earthquake, which is this in red here. It was about 2:18 this morning. 2:18 this morning. The rest of these are just minor tremors. Let me show you some more. This is what happened this afternoon at Blacksburg, South Carolina. The microquakes began to put up a lot of tremors and earthquakes. The largest was probably a 2.5 magnitude earthquake. And you can see the earthquakes on this seismograph. There's a bunch of tremors there as well. You can see the consistent tremors line after line after line. The thicker the line, the larger tremor it is. Can you imagine being in an area and constantly feeling movement? Almost imperceptible movement, but you can feel something going on. That's what these people felt until the larger movement happened. The tremors and the earthquakes happened. Some people are very sensitive and can feel these. That's in Blacksburg, okay, this afternoon. Now, I'm going over to Scranton, South Carolina, this morning. Again, most of this is nothing more than microquake. There are some tremors here and you can see it. Very almost imperceptible movement. 1.0 tremors, 1.2 tremors at the most. Okay? That was Scranton, South Carolina. And I'm not done. This is Scranton, South Carolina this afternoon. More and more tremors and longer lasting tremors this afternoon. And at one point, if you look up here at the top, 1:03 this afternoon, they turned off the seismograph. They turned off the machine for about 10 minutes, 10 or 12 minutes. Then they turned it back on, over here on the right. But you see that great big hole, that long hole near the top of this seismograph. They turned off the machine. Why? What happened that they turned off the machine? What happened? Now you're not going to like what I'm going to show you next. Okay? Again, the U.S. Geological Survey did not report this. What I'm going to show you now, the U.S. Geological Survey has not reported. We've reported about earthquakes in Lugoff and Elgin, South Carolina before. I'm going to show you now the seismogram from Sumter that is very near Elgin, South Carolina. Look at this. This shows constant tremor movement along that same fault. Constant tremor movement along the Eastern Continental Divide down there in South Carolina. That's exactly where Lugoff and Elgin, South Carolina are. This seismograph over in Sumter is recording this. You're seeing it. This went on for over 12 hours. Let me show you this afternoon's. That's an awful lot of shaking, right? It didn't stop, ladies and gentlemen. Look what we have this afternoon. It didn't stop. But again, this afternoon, at about 2:03 this afternoon, on the black line, they shut off the seismogram. Why? Did the scientists want us not to see something that happened? USGS is not telling us about it. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing being reported by the USGS on the map. But they shut off the seismogram again for about 10 or 12 minutes. and then they turned it back on. But as you can see, this constant shaking went on. These are tremors, 1.3, 1.4 tremors that are ongoing. Elgin, Lugoff, and that whole area, it's shaking. The Continental Divide is shaking, guys. And that's not all. Let's go south to Georgia. Let me show you Georgia. First off, let's go to Waverly Hall. Waverly Hall, Georgia. Look at this. Microquakes and a lot of tremors, huh? Up here at the top. The top line here is black. It's midnight last night this morning. Over at 1 o'clock on the left-hand side on the second black line. We go to the right. The 1 o'clock line shows here about 1:10 this morning. We had some tremors start. And over on the far right here, that's a good size 1.4 tremor there. Then it back off to microquakes. Okay, it started off as a tremor there on the right. On the left-hand side on the red line, it continued as a 1.3, 1.4 tremor. Then it went into microquake shaking. Then later this morning, the shaking continued and it got larger on the green line here. This is 8:45 this morning. 8:47, 8:48, it started. Then at 10 o'clock, well, 9 o'clock this morning, 9 o'clock this morning, we had a 1.7, 1.8 tremor on the black line on the left, the bottom left. Maybe a 1.7, 1.8 tremor. That's significant. Then it backed off to nothing. It's nothing but microquakes. This is significant. This is very significant. This is on the southern end, the southeast end of the Continental Divide. This is this afternoon in Waverly, Waverly, Georgia. Waverly Hall, Georgia. We had microquakes, we had some very minor tremors, and then this afternoon, okay, this black line here, 1600 hours, 4 p.m. this afternoon. Almost, it was about 4:03 and some seconds this afternoon on this black line. This is at least a 2.3, 2.4, maybe even close to a 2.5 magnitude earthquake here. This is significant. It's a minor earthquake in Waverly, Georgia. Waverly Hall, Georgia. Now, the next one I'm going to show you will blow your mind. This one is going to blow your mind. Look at this. This is Savannah, Georgia. Up at the top is midnight and goes on all morning long. At about 5:15 this morning, it went from microquakes to tremors and increased in the size of the tremors. Then, on the 10 o'clock black line towards the bottom here, you can see 10 o'clock in the morning on the left-hand side. Okay? At about 10:10 a.m. this morning, we had another 2.5 magnitude earthquake. 2 or 3 minutes later, to the right, we had another tremor, a good-sized tremor, probably a 1.5 tremor. And after that, ongoing on the red line below that, which is the 10:15 line on the left, and goes all the way to 10:29 on the right. Then on the blue line, it starts at 10:30 and goes forward to the right. But on the red line, there's more tremors, and there's tremors all morning long. That's Savannah. That's this morning in Savannah. Look at this afternoon. It went from just microquake activity to constant tremors. Then larger tremors. Then this afternoon, sometime after 5, I'm going to say about 5:12, 5:11, 5:12 this afternoon, we had a 2.5 magnitude earthquake. We had several of them. There's more than just one line there. There's more than just one line here. Okay, look at that. Several 2.5 magnitude earthquakes, at least 4 of them. It stopped shaking for a matter of seconds and started in again. Okay, on the red line below that, okay, this is 5:21 p.m. this afternoon. Another 2.6, 2.7 magnitude earthquake. Okay? These were felt. USGS didn't say anything about it, did they? It's not on any of their maps. They're not saying anything. Okay? Up at the top of this on the blue line, that's another 2.5 earthquake. They've had many earthquakes today, not just microquakes and tremors. These are earthquakes all over the place. This is the southeast side of the Continental Divide. The ground is moving, brothers and sisters and ladies and gentlemen. It's moving. It's moving like nothing else. Now, let's go over to the New Madrid Fault. I'm going over to Illinois. Carbondale, Illinois today. Look at this. The top of this was midnight. Almost no shaking at all. Then, at 10:15 this morning, just before 10:16, we had some tremors. Those tremors continued. Those tremors continued to 10:20, 10:21 this morning. They got larger about 10:23, well actually 10:20, 10:21 this morning. Okay, this is an earthquake. This is at least a 2.2 magnitude earthquake, and it lasted a few seconds. Then it simmered down to just barely microquakes, maybe a 1.0 tremor. Then it built up to a 1.3, 1.4 tremor again. Then it continued on the red line going to the right, where it built up to 1.4, 1.5 tremor. Then it went to a 2.0 earthquake, 1.8 to a 2.0 earthquake. And you can see the other tremors here. Carbondale, Illinois. This is at the northern part of the New Madrid Fault. Okay. Let's go over to Fairfield, Illinois. A lot of you have asked me about Fairfield, Illinois, and you live near Fairfield, or you live in Fairfield. This is midnight. The top of this seismogram is midnight. Okay? On the left, it's midnight. Then we go over to about 12:10 this morning. We have at least a 2.2 magnitude earthquake on that black line on the right, the top right. Then we have consistent tremors going on here. Okay? What happens about 4:02 a.m. this morning. Over on the left-hand side on the black line, 4:02 a.m. this morning, we have another 2.2, 2.3 magnitude earthquake. It lasts a few seconds and it goes to secondary waves. And then it goes to a body wave after that. It lasted about 4 or 5 minutes. From the primary P wave to the secondary waves out to body waves. It lasted about 5 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. Sorry, 7 minutes. Okay, and then it petered out. Then we have a bunch of other tremors here. Okay, then 9:32 a.m. on the blue line down towards the bottom here. We have a large earthquake here. A 2.6, 2.7 magnitude earthquake at 8:32, 8:33 this morning. Then we have a bunch of tremors the rest of the morning. Okay? This is Fairfield, Illinois. Let's look at this afternoon. Look at these tremors. Good tremors. The earthquakes quit hitting, but we have constant shaking. Okay? It really didn't stop. Really didn't stop. It goes from microquakes into larger tremors. This is the northern part of the New Madrid fault. Let's go down to Let's go over to Evansville, Indiana. This is Evansville, Indiana. Again, the northern part of the New Madrid fault. Microquake activity at the beginning of the morning. Then about 6 a.m. this morning, the microquake activity gets stronger. Then about 7:30, the microquakes turn into tremors. Off and on tremors all the rest of the day. Some tremors larger than others. 1.3, 1.4 tremors. And back down to near microquake activity. Evansville, Indiana. Let's go down to Barker Cemetery in Missouri. Look at this. Almost absolutely no shaking at midnight last night. About 7:30 this morning, on the blue line, we have a 1.7 magnitude tremor here. The rest of these are very small tremors here. Down here on the black line here at almost 11:02 this morning, we have another 1.5, 1.6 magnitude earthquake, or tremor, I'm sorry. 1.6 magnitude tremor. This is how it started at Barker Cemetery. It continues, guys. It continues. It goes this afternoon as well. Here we get the larger tremors here. 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 this afternoon. About 2:50 p.m. this afternoon, a 1.7 tremor. Near earthquake. Barker Cemetery, Missouri. Let me continue here. Let's go to St. John's Bayou. St. John's Bayou. Microquake activity at the first part of the day. turning into very tiny tremors. Then, about 6:15, actually no, it was about 6:14 this morning on the black line on the right. The micro tremors were kicking up into minor, actually the microquakes kicked up, then they turn into small tremors, very tiny tremors. Then it turns into 2.0 magnitude earthquakes on this red line here. Okay, St. John's Bayou, Missouri, a 2.0 earthquake. This lasted for nearly a full minute. The P waves lasted for almost a full minute. They'd kick up, then they back off a little bit and kick up again every few seconds. Earthquakes. Then the rest of the day, the rest of the morning, it's very minor tremors. I don't even think it was microquakes, it was very minor tremors, 1.0 tremors. This is serious. This is serious, guys. Now, this is what happened there this afternoon. Why am I talking about this? This is the center of the New Madrid Fault. St. John's Bayou, Missouri. This seismogram is this afternoon. At about 1:17 this afternoon. This time a 2.7, 2.8 earthquake. And for some people that lived right here near the epicenter, they felt this earthquake. They felt a lot of rumbling beneath their feet. The rest of this afternoon is just very minor tremors. Okay? St. John's Bayou. Now what I'm going to show you is increased earthquakes on the New Madrid Fault. Look at this. This is Mark Tree, Arkansas, just southeast of Jonesboro. Okay, you can see how these microquakes turn into tremors and turn into earthquakes here. For the most part, up at the top line on the right-hand side, about 1:10 or 12:10 this morning, on the right-hand side, it goes from microquakes into tremors. Then I believe it went into 2.0 magnitude earthquakes for about 2 minutes. Then it goes back into tremors and into a secondary wave and into a body wave on the 12:15 line. From 12:10 for 2 to 3 minutes, we had primary and secondary waves going on. At least 2.5 minutes of primary waves. Then secondary waves, and then body waves. Look at these other earthquakes and tremors here throughout this entire seismogram. Some of them are larger. For example, over on the left-hand side. The left-hand side, about 3:44 this morning, over on the right-hand side on the blue line. The microquakes kicked up to 1.0 tremors. Then it went from 1.0 to 1.5, 1.6. Then over on the left-hand side on the green line, it continues until we have 2.5 magnitude earthquakes. And look how long those earthquakes lasted. Almost 2.5 minutes worth of shaking going on. 2.5 magnitude earthquakes shaking for about 2 minutes. Then it goes back down to maybe a 2.0 earthquake and then into tremors again. You can see these earthquakes come and go here. This is all morning long here. Marked Tree, Arkansas, southeast of Jonesboro. This is every day, folks. Every day at Marked Tree, the same thing. Again, this is a center. This is the center of the New Madrid Fault along the Mississippi River. This is this afternoon. The seismogram at Marked Tree this afternoon. Again, you can see the tremors, the 1.0 tremors, turning into larger tremors and turning into earthquakes again. The 115 line is blue or red here, in the red. The 115 line turns into larger tremors, 1.0, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, into full-blown 2.0 magnitude earthquake. And it's hard to see exactly what's going on because the colors underneath it this afternoon on the 130 line. And then again on the green 145 line, the earthquakes are continuing. They back off for about 5 or 10 minutes and then they build back up. Look here on the 3 o'clock line, the black line at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Let's move it to the right. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes after 3 this afternoon. The microquakes kick up to 1.0 tremors. They kick up to about 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 and turn into full-blown earthquakes. 2.0 earthquakes. Look at this. Off and on. Off and on for 4 minutes. 4 minutes of 2.0 plus earthquakes. Okay, that's this afternoon. That's this afternoon. Now, I can continue going on here. Guam, Missouri. Look at this. Going from almost nothing to just tremors here on this blue line at the top. Started off about 12:29 a.m. this morning with a very almost imperceptible microquake turning into tremor activity, 1.0, 1.2, 1.3 magnitude tremors. And then on this blue line, on the 230 line on the left, turns from almost nothing into perceptible tremors into almost a 1.7, 1.8 tremor itself. Nearly an earthquake. Okay? The only earthquake that I believe we had here was at 7:05 this morning on the blue line. It goes from microquakes, goes into full-blown tremors within about 2-minute time period. Then it goes into some tremor activity. Okay? Then on the 7:15 line here, on the red, okay, that one goes into a 2.0 earthquake. The lower center here, that red earthquake there. 2.0, 2.2 earthquake. And the rest of these are just tremors. And this wannabe earthquake about 106 or 11:06 this morning, at the very bottom on the center there. Look at that earthquake, scattered all over the place. Smack, smack, smack. Can you imagine living over the epicenter of that quake or walking there and you're feeling stuff happening beneath your feet, and you're going, my gosh, what happened here? Yeah, guys, this is serious. This is serious. Look what's happening. Okay? It's going on. It's going on. Portageville, Missouri, look at this. Look at the 3 good-sized earthquakes this morning. Portageville, Missouri. This black line here starts off on the green line to the right. Just microquake activity turning into 1.0 tremors on up into full-blown 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 into 2.0 magnitude earthquakes. Now they cut off the bottom and the top of this earthquake. They cut off the bottom and the top of this on the green line, the 345 line on the left-hand side. We moved to the right, which is about 3:50 a.m. this morning. They cut off the bottom of the top there. That could have been upwards of a 3.0 earthquake. They cut it off. The same thing on this green line at the bottom. They cut off the bottom and the top. That could have been a 3.0 earthquake there. And yet USGS did not say a darn word on their map about these earthquakes. They say they don't hide earthquakes. They report 1.7 tremors sometimes. They report 2.5 earthquakes, which we showed you on the USGS map today. Why did they not report these earthquakes? Yes, they're clipping the earthquakes, Ray. They're clipping them. Okay? That's what's happening. The new Madrid fault is moving. That's why I'm showing you this. Now, I did not have time to pull up any perceptible earthquakes down in Louisiana. I apologize. They did have some earthquakes in Pioneer, Louisiana today. Earthquakes and tremors. Earthquakes and tremors. That did happen. Now, yes, we've had some hot temperatures. I have had people reporting to me all day long of 113 degrees in Arizona and Nevada, 113, 110 degrees in Oklahoma, in Texas. I know it's hot. Today it got to 93 degrees here where I live in Morganton, North Carolina. Someplace it's even hotter. By this weekend we may have 100-degree temperatures here in Morganton. It's happening. There's been almost no rain. Almost no rain. Salt Lake got a little bit of rain last week. Laytonville got 1 inch of rain. Laytonville is just north of Salt Lake. 1 lousy inch of rain. Didn't do much of anything for the drought. Other parts of Utah got very little. We got a little bit of rain here in Morganton this afternoon right before I was to go on the air. One of the reasons I came on a little bit later is because we're under thunderstorm watch. And so I unplugged everything and stayed off the air. Then I had problems with YouTube. I hope to have those problems with YouTube settled by tomorrow. I will try to do a test program tomorrow morning here on YouTube on our main channel. I hope they give it to me back. Now, folks, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's food shortages going on. I was at the grocery store today. There were shelves in the dairy department that were empty. Shelves in the dairy department were empty. Shelves throughout the store that were empty. Not everything, but there were shelves in the store that were completely empty. Other stores had front forwarded the cans and bottles where there was only maybe cans and bottles 1 or 2 deep. The rest of the shelves behind it were bare. So they were trying to fill the shelves in. Okay? There's a food shortage going on, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get much worse. We talked about everybody having some kind of garden. I'm growing some tomatoes out here. I'm growing some squash out here, and I'm growing some strawberries out here. We've already had 3 good strawberries here. Really nice strawberries, very tasty, very sweet. Our squash is about maybe 14, 15 inches long. It's getting good sized. Now, folks, you need to prepare, like I said. You need to prepare. Don't be a faker. Because if you're faking it, you're going to know, and so is your family. Because you're not going to have food and other things that you need. As I am using product myself, I am replacing that which I use. Okay? I'm keeping my shelves full. And I urge you to do the same. Make sure you have a preparedness plan like I outlined earlier. If you need that information, go to our website below this program and pull up the files sharing area. You're going to find PDFs over there with all the information you need. If you have questions, write me or call me, and I will be glad to help you. I used to get paid to do preparedness talks. I used to get paid to do disaster drills all over this country. I have now put that information on my website for all of you to see. And it's free. Folks, use it. Use it. Please use it. And by the way, S-Nord is not swearing. Okay? I've said the word Brandon myself. He's a POS. He's a POS. Now, I urge you in the strongest language possible to get prepared and do it immediately. You don't have much time left, not just here in the United States, but around the world. Catman knows exactly what I'm talking about in England. They are facing the same things we are. There are small earthquakes around the globe today. Small and minor earthquakes all around the globe. But things are going to get worse earthquake-wise. There are fires everywhere. There are floods in places where they got too much rain. People are dying. I'm urging you to make sure that you have things ready for yourself and your family. S-Nort, you did not swear. Okay? You didn't. Troubled times are getting worse. Some people say we're in the tribulation. We are not. We're not even close to the tribulation. Okay? But it's coming. Are you ready? Now, it's the end of my program. But I want to leave you with something here. I hesitate to go over here to Revelations. I was going to go over here into Revelations. In fact, I'm going to go over to Revelations chapter 6. We're talking about the second seal. The second seal's been opened. In verse 1, And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, and one of four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw and beheld a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering, and to conquer. And when he opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him, and sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there were given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God, and for the testimony that they had. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge, and revenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And the white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them, that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also, and their brethren that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. And I beheld when he opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell on the earth, even as a fig tree eateth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Brothers and sisters, we have begun the sixth seal. It's only begun. The times foretold in the scriptures are made plain. We've talked about it. We've talked about it ad litem. It's time for us and everyone else to prepare. It's time for us to be serious about the crisis that we are facing. If you don't understand it, you need to find out. And I have no problem talking about it, as you know. I care about you. I love every one of you. That's why I'm here. We've talked about preparedness. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about the New Madrid. We're going to talk about the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to talk about what is going on around the world. Earthquakes and everything. Friday is Preparedness Friday. I will be coming on the air and talking about emergency preparedness. I want to invite all of you to bring your friends to our program on Friday. We should be full of people on our program on Friday. I hope to be back on our main channel tomorrow evening. That's what I'm shooting for. Please, folks, bring your families, bring your friends and neighbors to our program tomorrow, and on Friday especially. I'm trying to give you as much information as possible to help all of you prepare for what is happening. Now, in closing, I bear you my witness that I know that everything that we have talked about is true. I have a testimony of prayer. I have a testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. He lives. And just as Christ lives, each and every one of us are here. And we can return to our Heavenly Father's kingdom if we do what we're supposed to do. You guys can get your families ready, and you can help your like-minded friends as well. But be careful. Take care of each other. Do what you need to do to prepare. Do what you need to do to prepare. I care about you. I love you very much. I urge you to do what you need to do. As Walter Cronkite has said, and that's the way it is. Wednesday, Hump Day, July 20th, 2022. God be with you till we meet again. If anything else happens tonight, as soon as the information becomes available, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it. Until then, everybody, have a great night, and we will see you on the other side around the corner. Good night, everybody. Much love. See you soon.
Thank you.